Hello, hello, and good evening, everybody. Good evening to you all. Good evening, Jayashree. Good evening, Anil. Good evening, Bhavani. Hello, Anurag. Hello, Shruti. Hello, Amlan. Hi, Ashish. How are you people doing? Good evening to all of you. Let us quickly begin the Gazette magazine discussion today. Today is 28th of October, and we have brought some really interesting articles from today's newspaper itself for you. So I welcome you all to the Gazette magazine and Edukemy's YouTube channel so that we start the discussion immediately. Good evening, Kriti. Good evening, Anonymous. And I deeply acknowledge your presence here. I deeply acknowledge your time here, the way you contribute your time here. So let's begin on this note. Good evening, Netra. Good evening to you as well. Now, today the hot selling articles in the market are: first, a new planet discovered which is beyond Milky Way. We understand about the planets which are in the solar system, and exoplanets which are beyond Sun, right? Beyond the ones which are rotating around other heavenly objects, not Sun. But this is the first time we have explored a planet which is revolving and rotating around another star itself, which is in another galaxy, right? So we'll know about it, how it was discovered. The second one is an update on subsidized electricity. What is the reason for government subsidizing electricity and how it is produced? What is the process of cross subsidization in electricity and how it is compensated? It was there in the newspaper Hindustan Times today itself. The third one is on a Supreme Court panel. It was in all the newspapers covered today about how they are going to conduct the Pegasus spyware investigation, right? So this is not a government bound investigation. This is being conducted with Supreme Court's guidance. This day in history is dedicated to Lunar 23. What is it? Anybody knows? Lunar 23. Moving ahead, the featured news for today is on a very important topic. That topic is related to plastic. So very beautifully I have covered here what are the issues that are related to plastic waste management. Do you know the total amount of plastic that is created, that is equivalent to, as of date, that is equivalent to all the humans taken together and their weight? That is the amount of plastic that we create. And 80% of the plastic that we create, it is never recycled. It is thrown away somewhere or the other, right? And more than 90% of the plastic waste, it comes in some or the other water body, and at the end it goes to the oceans. So we will study some very important aspects of plastic waste management, what is the requirement and how the government has planned its way forward, right? This is at 6:45 p.m. Image of the day is on the persons of Indian origin and doing wonders in Canada. We will understand what they are doing there. Terms and concepts. The four terms that we discussed today are hybrid immunity. What is that about, right? Some new terms in COVID times. One is revenge tourism. Another one is eco. I had shared that word. Eco. There's some word related to it. And now we have hybrid immunity, right? So the second term that we have is diammonium phosphate, right? This was in the Gazette magazine quite a few times, right? In snapshots, what was the reason? Diammonium phosphate, DAP, in news for, and later UPSC also asked a question on this, right? Phosphatic fertilizers. And the third one is the infant mortality rate. The fourth one is liaison officer. So we discussed these four terms. The three editorials that we discussed today are: first about the Supreme Court Pegasus row, and the second one is about reimagining the forests. What is the government trying to do, and is it good or not, right? So we will understand the updates of some new notifications about Forest Act. And the third one is the issue of radicalization and how Prime Minister has given a speech on de-radicalization, counter-radicalization, anti-radicalization. We'll understand each of the terms there. And the case study of the day is on an important way of producing potable water during the times of disaster. All right. So if you're with me, we will begin this right now. Okay. Eco-anxiety, absolutely correct. Eco-anxiety is the word. So these are the kind of keywords, no? Anybody would get impressed, you know, kind of speak these kind of words. New, a little new to people, however, really pertinent. It strikes the mind of the person, right? So allow me to discuss the first snapshot, right? Now, first snapshot is about discovering a planet which is away from our galaxy altogether, right? We discover planets which are away from Sun and they are revolving around another satellite, another star altogether, and that is called as exoplanet. But this is a planet which has been discovered in a different galaxy. This galaxy is called as Messier 51, M51, right? It is also called as Whirlpool Galaxy, and it was discovered by NASA. Now it is quite difficult to understand if the object is so distant, whether it is producing light by itself or it is reflecting light, or if at all it is producing light at all, right? So that is why if we are going as farther the distance, it becomes more tough to understand if the body is producing light by itself or not, right? So the common way in which one can understand, the scientists do this, astronomers understand whether the body is a satellite or not, is if it is passing its rays to us, if the rays are able to come to us. And sometimes when a heavenly body, it moves from the line in which the light is passing, if the heavenly body moves, the light gets disturbed. So there is small distraction, and this distraction ensures the person to understand that yes, that was the body which was creating light, right? So this is how stars can be found out which are distantly located, right? So see, there is a characteristic dip. This is the keyword. There is a characteristic dip in the light that is received by us, and this is how we understand that yes, that was the body which was producing light. It was interrupted by passage of another body, right? So this is how largely they are detected, and this time astronomers studied the X-ray of the body that was transmitting light, and they discovered that this heavenly body, this satellite, was passing through. So this is how they understood that this is a satellite which is not transmitting light, right? So why does this become significant? This research becomes very significant because the farther we are able to understand if they are satellites or they are black holes or neutron stars or any stage of a star, the more precise we will be able to understand what was the origin of universe, right? The more farther we are able to research on, the farther we will understand the origin of universe and what is the future of universe, right? So this becomes very significant as far as human understanding, curiosity of space is considered, right? So an image depicting of how it was discovered. Now the second snapshot is on another important news, that is on subsidized electricity, right? Now what happens is that there are two types of consumers, two types of electricity consumers. One are the retail consumers like us, like people like us who consume electricity at homes, and the second one are commercial or industrial consumers, right? So the government primarily wants populist mechanisms to be in place, right? Each of the government does not want that the electricity prices do not rise, especially for the retail customers like you and me. So they will ensure that the prices do not rise for us. They are 3, 4, 5 rupees per unit for us. But in case of the commercial and industrial usage, they will raise the prices. Why? So that it is counter subsidized. See, it is very similar. It is very similar to what is done in railways also. Railway traffic, right? Two type of people. One is the retail people, I mean the regular passenger traffic, and the second one is the one that relates to the railway carriages, right? The go down carriages. We are talking of the goods train. So the prices of carrying our goods on the goods train is very high as compared to the prices that we pay while we travel, while we make our goods travel through roads. So why does the government still have the high prices? Because it cross subsidizes, right? Subsidy provided for normal railway passenger is to be paid by the commercial one. So this is how government tries to subsidize it, but still the payments are due. The payments do not reach the distribution companies, and if the distribution companies do not have the payment, how will they be able to pay to power generators, gencoms? So they are called as gencoms, generator companies, power gencoms, and these are called as discoms, distribution companies. And here we are the consumers, two types of consumers, right? So when they do not get the money back, how will they be able to pay it to power generators, right? And power generators also have got pacts with distribution companies that in case they don't pay, then they will have the tripartite agreement. The state, RBI, whoever has vouched that in case this distribution company does not pay, they will pay, that state will pay. So they have also started to invoke the tripartite agreement, right, with the state. So 1 lakh crore, as much as that amount is left around to be paid. And that is one reason that there is shortage of energy as well, right? So this is one cause, that is cross subsidization. The second one is that there is less of payment rotating around, less of money circulating in the economy, so payments are due. This is another reason. And what does it do? In fact, what it tries to do is try to help the least privileged section of the society, gain some votes from them. So this is the main agenda. But you know what? It actually impacts very badly to the whole economic setup. See, if the consumer is not paying right away, the government will take the money, because they are the source, they are the person who will pay them the taxes. So somehow or the other, the government will ensure that the consumer pays. If not directly for consumption of electricity, then through taxes. So consumer has to pay. So there is no going away, there is no evading from these kind of prices, right? The second one is the government. The government has to show some fiscal deficit in that case, because government eventually bears the burden. Government bears the burden and pays the electricity company in case they are falling short of something, right? We studied a few days back during the coal crisis that the Coal India Limited, it was told to them that indirectly by the government that you do not sell the coal on high prices and we will pay you the prices later on. So the government is bearing the loss here. There will be fiscal deficit for the government, as simple as that. And the third one, for distribution companies, they will not have enough money. They will not have enough finances to expand, right? They will not have enough finances to give it to generator companies, power generator companies. And power generator companies already in the crisis, right? They will have lesser production. So see, this mechanism is not good for anybody, right? But however, it is still getting followed. So beautiful illustration here shows how power generator companies, distribution companies, consumers are related, right? This is the kind of image, if you draw in your examination, will fetch you a couple of marks extra, because examiner will get more attentive to what you're writing. Okay, all right, no free lunch, as Kriti says, absolutely correct, right? So it's just the management of money. But since politics also plays a role in our country, right, it does play everywhere, where people have to shell some money out of their pocket. So this is how we see the complete spoilage of economic structure. In fact, India is far better placed as compared to countries in European Union, countries in North America like USA. Why? Because those are the kind of governments which pay a lot of money, right, pension amount to those people also who are not able to get unemployment allowances, $2,000 per person, right? So because of that, there is a huge deficit for the government. So what are we talking of here right now? We are talking of the government debt to the GDP ratio, right? Government debt to the GDP ratio. So India's debt ideally should be around 60%, and because of Corona times, it is 90%. However, in developed countries, you will see this debt to GDP ratio going up to as much as 150, 200%, right? So they are very much in mess as compared to as far as finances is concerned, the developed countries. Okay, the third snapshot is on the Supreme Court panel, which has now set up a panel, an investigation panel into the Pegasus spyware case, right? So retired Justice Ravindran is the one who is heading this panel, right? And it was set up because of the imperative of the Chief Justice of India, C.V. Ramana, right? Now, these are the kind of names you must remember, because if you are appearing for some other exams also apart from UPSC, state exams, state PCS and other relevant exams, so they might ask these kind of silly questions, but important current affairs questions, right? So what happened was that in 2019, it was found out that certain WhatsApp profiles were hacked and certain software was used so that information may be retrieved. WhatsApp understood about it later on, and they also filed some complaint against Pegasus, right? They understood it as Pegasus. Now, what is Pegasus? Pegasus is a Israeli companies, and can somebody name the company? Israeli companies software built for spying. So nothing is required. You don't even need to click on your phone, but it will start spying. The cameras will open. You will not even come to know. All the data will be shared with the person who is accessing your phone, computer, everything. And your whole world, privacy world, will be invaded completely, right? And it can be done without the person knowing it, right? And it was later found out in certain revelations that Pegasus software was also purchased by India. See, certain revelations, right? Public media reports, right? Certain revelations, not government saying this, but it was found that India has paid for it, and India has also started to utilize these services. And many prominent journalists, prominent politicians, prominent judges, they were people who were investigated, and there is no law which calls for such kind of investigation away from privacy. So yes, NSO is the company, Israeli company. Absolutely correct, Jayashree. So since it is uncalled for, right? The government is accountable for it, because right to privacy is one of the important rights, and we are also about to frame um, a big bill regarding the same, right? So this is why, since government could not respond back in the Supreme Court, right, about what was the reason that they went ahead with this kind of investigation. See, government is not even revealing whether they purchased it or not, whether they have used it against its people or not, who are the people who they used it against, what was the national security agenda that was of high importance, which was away from the personal privacy, right? So these are the questions that were asked from the government, and a lot of petitions were there. The government was given time to respond, but government responded in very, very small words, phrases, saying that it has no relation to these kind of things. These are personal prejudices, media reports suggesting all this. So and they also suggested that, all right, we will find a committee, we will create a committee. Government said, government members committee. Supreme Court said, not doing nothing like that. We will create a committee and we will investigate the whole matter, right? So the main important imperatives of this committee will be to speak about right to privacy, press freedom, and what is the limitation of national security. Because in the name of national security, no government can be impinging on person's privacy and liberty, right? So important terms of reference. That means these are the places where the committee is going to investigate. So what are they? Let me show you. First is whether Pegasus used phones or other devices of Indian citizens to access data. So what did Pegasus do? Did it use the data or not? Who are the victims? Details of those victims, right? The third is what steps or actions were taken by the government after reports of hacking were found out, right? Did the government try to ensure that these kind of hacking don't happen, or government was the one doing it? The fourth one is did the government actually acquire Pegasus or not? Still not clear, right? But if you see the budget of certain organizations, government organizations, national security organizations, their budget was increased tenfold. Some of their budget was increased tenfold to a few hundred crores. Probably they were purchasing this software, right? So still an investigation. Let us see what is it. And government, when asked what was the national security issue, government said that this is something that we cannot disclose in public, right? So then another one is agency has used Pegasus. So what are the rules under which government is using this kind of Pegasus software? Because there is no part in IT Act or Telegraph Act which mentions how the government should be using these kind of softwares against people. In fact, the law states clearly that there has to be an intermediary involved. So suppose I want to know what the terrorist is speaking on their phone, the company subscriber company, Airtel or Reliance Jio, whoever they are, they will be the intermediary providing the data, and there will be a certain number of approvals required. And here there was no approval required, right? So what act have you used to impinge on person's privacy, right? You have to tell us clearly. This is what the Supreme Court had asked, and this is the mandate of the committee to find out, right? Because government is not speaking about it, right? And that is why there was ruckus in the parliament, right? And we had so many sessions which were curtailed, or there were walkouts, right? So right, so these are the updates of the mandates of the committee, right? And certain recommendations regarding the same to be made, right? So this is the update about it. Moving ahead, I found this interesting. I found this update very interesting. All right, how about you? I found this Pegasus update very interesting. Today's newspaper, all the newspapers covered it religiously on the first page itself. Okay, this day in history is dedicated to Lunar 23. This was a lunar mission, and the idea was to capture some of the lunar entities and bring them back to Earth. But during the time of landing, something happened. It did not work, and then therefore it could not bring back the substance. So October 28th, 1974, this was launched to moon. Lunar 23. Luna is a very easy name to understand. Luna and lunar very much relate to moon themselves, right? Now, if you are a little scientifically oriented, there is a very beautiful mechanism in which the landing on moon happens, right? The landing on moon and landing on Mars, they are very different, and landing on Earth is also very different. See, there is a place where there is rarefied atmosphere, right? And there is a place where there is no atmosphere at all. So depending on that, they use parachutes, right? So that there is a soft landing. If the landing is not soft, its landing gears will fall apart, right? Its mechanism and complete entities might even break down, and this has happened previously at many occasions. So they might use parachutes. They might also use booster rockets. So there are places where if this is the entity which is landing, they might have a couple of booster rockets, and they will be, these booster rockets from some or the other side, they will be forcing that there is a soft landing on that surface, either moon or Mars, depending on the kind of gravity and the space situation. So landing is a very, very sensitive issue at places. Featured news, plastic waste management, amazing article, and we will describe to you very, very well what is the need for plastic waste management, what is the situation in India, around the world, and how is the government and how are the people trying to ensure that plastic waste is curtailed, right? We will also talk about the thickness of plastic waste. Why do we want thicker plastic, right? And what is multiple layered plastic, what is single use plastic, right? All those things at 6:45. Image of the day is on the Indo-Canadian lady who has become Canada's minister, right? So she's a Tamilian Punjabi lady, a person of Indian origin, and now she's the defense minister in Canadian government, right? Justin Trudeau's government. And in fact, she also held the position of public service and procurement minister in the 2019 times, right? So not only her, there are two more people of Indian origin who have gotten this position in the coveted Canadian Council of Ministers. And isn't it great for India to acquire this position, right? Where India has influence over countries like USA, European Union, Canada, Australia. It's already happening. And in 2008, we had the Indo-US nuclear deal, right? And there were a number of people who advocated, though persons of Indian origin or their friends, they advocated that that America should go ahead with the deal with India. So these are the kind of informal back channel diplomacy. These are the kind of the word used here is liaising, that is important between the countries, right? So very good. Terms and concepts. The first term and concept for today is hybrid immunity. This is something that many of you would have already had, right? So what is hybrid immunity? If you have been subjected to the vaccination, and if you have been subjected not only to the vaccination but alongside you have been also subjected to COVID virus itself, you are hybrid immune. How do you say that? See, one is the natural immunity that we gain if we acquire the virus, right? Body will have its own immunity. And the second one can be acquired if we have taken the vaccination, right? Now vaccination can be taken in many other modes, right? One is direct injection of the the Covishield and the other kind of vaccines, where the dead or nearly dead particles of the virus itself are injected in the body. It will develop immunity. Or we have other type of vaccinations where there is some genetic modification done so that those entities, right, are introduced in our body, creating the same effect, right? However, in both of the cases, we develop another immunity, right, with the help of this vaccine injection. So natural and vaccine immunity, both of them led together leads to hybrid immunity of the body, and our body cells, they remember it very clearly, and they have a very strong urge to produce antibody in case the virus hits us again, in case there is a mutated virus also which hits us again, right? So it is capable of churning out highly potent antibodies, and that is the reason that all the governments were saying, please get yourself vaccinated. The tendency for occurrence of the disease, the viral disease, will decrease, their intensity will decrease, right? So Anil Sahu has used the word soft power, right? Soft power here. Yes, soft power is another word for this. I am also looking for, right? I will tell you that word. Okay, diammonium phosphate. This is one of those kind of fertilizers which are used in maximum proportion after urea. So urea is the one which uses a good amount of nitrogen. NPK to be used in the proportion 1:2:4. 1:2:4. This is the ideal proportion. But we have got good amount of nitrogen presence. We don't have phosphate and potassium, and that is why we import most of it, right? We do not have ready potassium. We do have potash. And we do have phosphate as well, but it is not ready to be used. So we import most of it from South America and other places, right? Nitrogen is the one that we use maximum, and that is why urea is the one which is used, because in urea the proportion of nitrogen is high. However, it has also led to the spoilage of the soil health. And that is the reason that now there is a diversification of the usage of fertilizers. And one fertilizer which can be used now more is diammonium phosphate. Again, it is imported, its components are imported also. So the international prices had soared very high, and that is why it was in news. We had covered this, and after that India also initiated the Atmanirbhar scheme on phosphatic fertilizers. So how will we produce these phosphatic fertilizers? See, we have got phosphate rocks, right? A good presence of phosphate rocks, and those rocks can be utilized to create these phosphates. So that is what was in the question also, UPSC question. We had covered in the Gazette video itself, right? In Gazette magazine as well. So we have covered this again. Why? Because there is an acute shortage of this DAP in Haryana right now. So when there was a shortage the last time, the government and IFFCO in fact had increased the amount of subsidy to be provided to DAP, imported DAP. So that is why in news they are very good for pulses. And what do they do is that they create some acidic effect on the soils because of the phosphate present, right? So do remember this. Infant mortality rate. Now, why is this in question today? Not just that India has had its sample registration system which has released the infant mortality rate, but you should also be able to relate this to nutrition, child nutrition. So when you're talking of the global hunger index, there were 4 parameters. One was the mortality rate, IMR. The second one was child malnutrition. The third one was stunting, and the fourth one was wasting. So one of the parameters was IMR, right? So IMR is in question right now because a new data has come, and very, very good data has come. Why? Because we have reduced the infant mortality rate from 50 to 30 in the last 10 years. It's a very, very remarkable and great achievement for our country that small children are not dying. Now, small, I'm talking of IMR. Infant mortality is for the child who is up to the age of 1 year. And then there is something called as CMR, child mortality. Child mortality is for the age up to the age of 5, right? So up to the age of 1, you talk of infant mortality, and if the child is up to the age of 5, we could talk of child mortality. There is a high possibility of the death of child at infant, at the times of infancy, and even higher when the child is, neonatal. So as the child is born in the coming 4 weeks, the possibility is even higher. That is why these kind of parameters are taken into consideration. Now, there is one thing to understand is that this infant mortality is very disparate in our country. Disparate. That means the data is very disparate for different states. Now, there are some states like Kerala which are at par with the developed countries as far as IMR is concerned, right? And there are states which are not doing that well, right? So Kerala with the number of 6 is equivalent to almost a developed country. And then we have Delhi also, which is doing very well at the 2nd place. But if you look at states like Madhya Pradesh, Uttar Pradesh, Assam, they are in the 40s. 40 children per 1,000 children born, they die when they are infants, when they are under the age of 1. Now see, there are many reasons for their death, and these reasons can actually be understood while, just a bit please. There are many reasons for child and infant mortality, and few important reasons is, for example, the age of the mother while she was pregnant. This is one reason, but this is something that the child is not related to. So how can child and infant mortality be contained? So by giving the child proper kind of diet, proper kind of care. Not only that, they also need vaccinations, right? So those are the kind of dosages that we give. And yes, Babani says Odisha is one of the worst. Yes, absolutely true. See, there was a term given previously, right? It was said as Bimaru, B-M-R-O-U. So B stands for Bihar, M stands for Madhya Pradesh, R for Rajasthan, O for Odisha, and U for Uttar Pradesh. See, Bimaru states. But then, and B is undivided Bihar. That means Bihar and Jharkhand. M is undivided Madhya Pradesh. That means Madhya Pradesh and Chhattisgarh. And then we have Uttar Pradesh undivided. That means Uttar Pradesh and Uttarakhand. And then Rajasthan and Odisha. These are the states which would do worst as far as the parameters for health indicators, education indicators are concerned. See, health, education go hand in hand. Okay, so health and education, and then employment, everything. So human parameters, development parameters, they would not do great. So this was the name given, but later this was changed because you can't start taking these kind of names, no, for states. and that is why a term was given, aspirational districts. Aspirational. And why are we talking at state level? We should be talking at smaller levels, district levels. So that is why this all was changed by the government, right? So this is the update. Okay, if you like this initiative, if you like our effort, all you got to do is just press the like button for now, right? Press thumbs up, and later on we'll see what to do. We'll improve this initiative furthermore, right? Okay, liaison officer. Liaison officer is the one who is posted on behalf of a country so that both the countries are able to handle their affairs together. So when a liaison officer of Navy is posted in India, what do? They try to coordinate maritime activities, defense activities, commerce and trade activities. And this is what has happened when UK has posted their liaison officer for the Indian Ocean region, right? So this is where I would like you to tell me the name of the ship that harbored in Mumbai coast, a ship harbored in Mumbai coast, and it belonged to UK, right? So do you know that, the name of the ship? So this is the update from here. Liaison officer becomes very important as far as the liaising between merchant ships and maritime threats are concerned, right? So they associate and they talk about what are the gaps between performance of both the country and what are the kind of data sharing required, technology sharing required, right? So this is the update. Moving ahead to editorials. The 3 editorials that we discussed today are, let me get back to the editorials immediately. All right. So the first editorial for today is on reimagining the role of the forest. See, the government has been speaking that they want to pass a forest act which is integrated in itself, right? I have spoken about this. The Prime Minister has also spoken about this. But the forest is not being considered the way it should naturally be considered. Pristine beauty, something that should be left at itself to regrow. Current level of forest in India is 23-24%, and what is required is to have 33% of forest. This is the mandate for our country, 33% of forest. Remember, we are also speaking of having 50% of natural area reserved spaces. India is now targeting only 33, and later we will target 50. But if you see the kind of notification the government has passed lately, it is very critical of what we want to achieve. It is just opposite of it. This is what it is explaining, the editorial explaining. So it gives the example of Dibru Saikhova in Assam. It gives the example of Ken Betwa in Madhya Pradesh. Now these are the places where there is good amount of biodiversity, flora and fauna present. And yet, because of government projects, the government has gone ahead with the clearing the forest spaces. In Dibru Saikhova for exploring oil, and in Ken Betwa for river linking project, right? So a lot of area which was a part of the tiger reserve, Ken Betwa Tiger Reserve, all that went underwater, right? So this is not a good development. Now, the notification that the government passed, it includes 3 important things. The first says that there is a right of way, Have you heard of it? There's a right of way. For example, a simple example to be given here is a newly road is constructed. A road is constructed very newly, and just the next day you will see that some authority has come and they've started to digging the road, right? They started to dig the road, and now they are introducing different kind of pipes or optical fiber, whatever they are doing, right? And we feel frustrated. They've spoiled the government funds here. They have the right of way, and that is why they do it. So the optical fiber network has right of way. Similarly, we speak of forest, the elephants, they have the right of way. But similarly, we also speak of National Highway Authority and railways who have got the right of way. So because of government saying that there should be a right of way for highway construction and railway, they feel that they have got complete liberty to get into the forest and create passages for highway and railways. This has been mooted by the government for thoughts, right? So this is not a very good development, considering that elephants are big animals, they're migratory in nature, yet they have been they got cut, their body got cut because of train movements, and 60 of them have been noted. You can imagine in the last 3 years, 2016 to 19, and you can well imagine how many would be the undisclosed numbers, unknown numbers. 60 of them have been under notification. The second one is, so when we talk of doubling the railway lines or increasing the number of lanes and highways, what are we doing? We are creating the right of way for humans, but we are reducing the right of way for flora and fauna. The second one is removing the permission for surveys and investigation activities. See, what are the kind of surveys and investigation activities we are speaking of here? We are speaking of this, the government is speaking, not me. The government says that let us remove and do away with these kind of surveys, these kind of investigations. What are the investigations? The investigations relate to exploring of resources, exploring of different kind of potential for human development. So if there is no permission required, then there'll be a blatant use of that place, right? So this is what the government has proposed right now. And the third one is the site where random activity can take place. So there is a proposal also to create a zoo inside a forest area. Why create a zoo? So these are the kind of questions that the editorial has asked, that these new notifications should not be doing these kind of things. They should be exploring ways to keep nature in its pristine beauty, right? Forest is synonymous to nature. It grows slowly and steadily. So let's try to preserve it, right? This is the conclusion of this editorial, right? So moving to the second editorial, it talks about the Pegasus row, and very quickly we will understand what are the crux of it, right? So committee is going to be headed under retired Justice Ravindran, and the Chief Justice of India, N.V. Ramana. He is the one who presided over this case and said that there will be a committee formed, right? So what happened, as I explained, was that the Supreme Court was full of petitions from people who are not only the victims but general people, right? And they said that they need an accountability from the government, and accountability was the mandate itself, right? So in response, government said, let me study what is the petition about, what is the report about of the people who have got requests. And then they took time, and after that, when they come up with very small one-liner, one-word explanation saying that they are not interested, they are not parties to all this, right? So that is why Supreme Court says that you leave it to us, we will do this complete reporting now. Three important things that the editorial has mentioned here is: one, fundamental right to privacy is really fundamental, right? So three important talks about it: legality, necessity, and proportionality. So legality, necessity, and proportionality of anything that is impinging on privacy, that becomes important. So this is one key. So note down these three words: legality, necessity, and proportionality. The second one is that the court rejected completely Solicitor General's proposal that the government will be constituting the committee, right? If the government constitutes a committee for research and investigation on its own matters, will it not impede the natural principle of justice, right? Principles of natural justice. We are the justice of our own cause. No, that is not how it goes. And the third is the question that has been asked to the government, that what did he do since 2019 when it was known that some kind of spyware has been put in some WhatsApp, right? So these are the three updates. The third editorial talks about the problem of radicalization in India. Now, Prime Minister, when he went to SCO summit, he spoke about four important terms. They are de-radicalization, counter-radicalization, anti-radicalization, and disengagement, right? So each of them have different meanings, and you will have to be a part of this to understand it, right? So are you there? That's my question. Are you there? All right. So the four words are de-radicalization, counter-radicalization, anti-radicalization, and disengagement. So to begin with, the editorial says that we are not in a stage where we are radicalized at a random way. The whole system has been established in countries and in India as well. So the radicalization right now in India is systematic. It is organized, it is programmed, and it is structured, very well structured, right? So when the whole program is structured, it is no more haywired, it is no more random. It is so systematic that we will also have to systematically address this challenge, right? So right now the government way of countering this radicalization is security centric. So how will we de-radicalize? Security centric, right? So enabling government security forces. Right now this is what we are doing. So example is stemming the flow of propaganda from Indian borders, right? So Indian borders be made more robust, right? More security surveillance and countering these kind of insurgency. This is one. The second one is having uniform statutory or policy framework, and the third one, associated strategies around it, right? So this is the part of de-radicalization. But then what is counter-radicalization? See, a lot of people get into these kind of activities which are against the government, against the state itself, and the government needs to rehabilitate those people, right? Put them back on track. So we are talking of rehabilitation, re-education, and reintegration of those kind of people. What is happening in Kashmir? Even the people who are not related to it but affected by radicalization, the government is trying to ensure that they be a part of the security force. They join some of the other service, right? They get employment, increased number of employment. So these are the parts in which you can have counter radicalization. And what is anti-radicalization? This is the absolute opposite of radicalization, radicalization and anti-radicalization. So there will be complete policy setup so that we are going to prevent radicalization altogether in the country. So this is about capacity building and a very, very wide scale activity, right? Disengagement is complete disassociation with radicalization. Prime Minister himself spoke of these 4 words. So no wonder if this comes in your examination someday, I will not be surprised, right? So do remember, in case you want to have a screenshot, do take that, right? So it's good to see Jayashree, Anil, Bhabani, Amlan and Fatima respond to me. Thanks for this. This really matters that you are here and you are listening, you are being a part and you are responding, right? So the editorial also says one important point, that radicalization becomes problematic only when it creates huge violence, right? It does not say that radicalization is very, very bad in its own sense. This is what the editorial says, not me. But when it becomes violent oriented, then it is not good, right? So this is the update, right? Now moving ahead to the last section, that is the case study. This case study is about the times of disaster when there is no water to drink. See, these are the times of disaster when potable water accessibility becomes the least, right? We do not even have places to sleep. There is no blanket over us. There is no bed cottage and there is no water. Water is life, right? Jal hi jeevan hai. So during these times, can we have some mechanism to have a mechanism through which we have potable water, drinking water? And what if the whole setup is portable? It can be put from one place to another, and in case if there is no electricity, even then we are able to use it. This is what has happened. We have explored a new way in which a portable device can give portable drinking water to people, right? It has been created, and this is a very good innovation. You can put down these kind of innovations to support disaster management, right? So see, the organization name is Aqua Plus Water Purifiers, and they have installed this kind of facility. This is going to help globally, because the number of disasters around the world is only going to increase in the coming future, right? So what are we talking of? We are talking of floods, we are talking of cyclones, we are talking of hurricanes, all those kind of entities. This is the kind of setup that we require for emergency usage. So it has got a good market also, right? Ethical market as well. So see, ethical profits. Please do note these kind of important words and terms. So you can use it, in the cases of disaster management and the kind of scientific and technology efforts that are taking place, right? So this is the update on the ethics case study today. Now we will meet within 1 minute. Within 1 minute, if you can join the other link, we will meet within 1 minute and we'll start discussing the feature news. A very interesting news waiting for you, and I've created a really beautiful slide around it. So thanks for watching, and we will see you in 1 minute's time.